Hi, my name is Faith Reynolds and I am a consumer expert in finance and open banking. I'm proud to be one of the judges in the first Open Finance Appathon. As a judge, I'd like the applications to really celebrate the potential of open banking. Open banking and open finance offer so much potential. And as consumers, we're really looking for help in managing our money and making the most of it. So I'm really looking for applications to celebrate the opportunities, fulfill the potential, and make products and services that offer real, genuine value for consumers and give us new forms of, new ways of managing our money and making the most of it. I think what the Open Banking Excellence Appathon is trying to achieve is really setting out to see how far can we push the technology and open finance to deliver services which are really transformative for people. We've seen the impact of COVID-19 on people's finances, and we're going to see some of that impact carry on over the next few years. What are the kinds of products and services that people really need? What are those that will help them to manage the uncertainty of the future, that will help them to have control over their finances? And for those people who are perhaps in a different position, perhaps they are working from home, they're saving more money than they've ever saved before, what kinds of products and services do they need to help put them on a sure footing in later life? So I think I'm quite interested in products that really respond to the current impact of COVID, products that are inclusive. We've had quite a lot of products that are targeted at the mainstream. How can we get products that are really targeted at those people who need help? So we know that more women, for instance, will be impacted financially by COVID than men. Do we need to think about how we help women differently from men? Are there kind of gender imbalances that we can look at? Or if we think about how people from different ethnic minorities are served by financial services or the sorts of service they receive, how can we push into those areas and make sure that our products are as inclusive as possible? So I'm quite interested in thinking about some of the interface of products. How can we make them simple and intuitive and attractive to the people who really need them? And then looking for products that are transformative, things that really make a difference to people's lives. They don't tinker around the edges. They move somebody from one position to another. They really help get people advice and access to help and services at a much earlier stage. We're expecting lots of people as a result of COVID to become indebted. Well, how do we help people get that advice they need at a much earlier stage so they don't spiral out of control? How do we help people balance and net off what's the best thing I should do with some redundancy money? Should it be saving? Should it be paying down debt? What should I do with my money? So what's the kind of help and advice that people could be getting from some of these apps that responds to the current situation? I'd like contestants to really consider the impact of COVID-19 on our society and the impact it's had also globally, and consider what could they do to mitigate those financial impacts? How could they make their services more responsive to what people need right now? So if I'm thinking about people who have lost income or been furloughed, or perhaps are looking at quite uncertain futures, how can products be made much more responsive to what it is that they need? So I'm quite interested in applications that look responsive. The other thing, things that give people control. So in times of uncertainty, one of the things that brings us reassurance is being able to control things. And in payments, people are often encouraged to spend, and online checkouts, etc. Sort of all about filling your cart and checking out with as little friction as possible. And frictionless is really important for convenience and good customer experience. But how do we think about giving people control in a frictionless experience? So I'm also really interested in how we can develop products and services that bring people control. And the other aspect I think of open banking, which I've noticed, is timeliness. I'm really keen on apps that push into the boundaries of real time, making sure people have real-time information within the confines of regulation, I know, but how do we make sure when people open their app, the information they get is accurate and true, that it reflects their real-time situation? And finally, the other thing that I'm quite interested in is trustworthiness. It's quite difficult to commercialize products, especially those that are looking to do right by the consumer. So finding products that are actually sustainable and commercially viable while being trustworthy and upfront and honest about how they're making money is another aspect that I'd be really intrigued to see firms responding to. So those are some of the kind of qualities that I'd be interested in looking at. One of the things that I'm seeing in terms of open finance and how the landscape is changing is just the wealth of new collaborations and how fintechs are working together to promote and develop new products and services. Really been struck by the impact of COVID and how fintechs actually sought to work together to try and help make change and bring products to market quickly. I think one of the other things that goes with that collaboration is just new ways of working, people thinking differently about how they work with others and how they can bring in new technology to deliver new services. So new ways of working and more collaboration are kind of two of the key things that I see. And then I guess, which you would expect out of that, is just innovation. People beginning to think differently, beginning to think much more holistically about the questions that people ask when they're managing their money and responding to that. And I think that's really positive. So I'm delighted to be taking part as a judge in this appathon. As a consumer representative, often seeking to push firms closer towards delivering for consumers, I'm really honoured and privileged to be able to see firms responding to that call for action, looking at ways that they can deliver better and more. And so that's why I'm quite excited about this appathon, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. I think a winning submission for me, something that would really stand out, is something that drives towards real inclusion, helping people, for instance, go digital. There are a number of people who are still shielding, still reliant on accessing services from home. And really, those people are still learning to go digital. So something that thinks about how services can go online, maybe small businesses can get online, but also that people who are perhaps not digital savvy, not digital natives, how they can be encouraged and facilitated to take up those services. I think making journeys much easier. For instance, thinking about how we provide that convenience, but also a level of friction that gives people control. Things that connect money and relationships. Many of us are seeking to reach out to our families in new ways and to connect with them more often as a result of COVID, checking in on them, making sure they're okay. And for people with older family members or with caring responsibilities, actually that can be quite challenging. So things that connect people relationally with each other, but also allow them to help each other with money, I think would be really helpful. I think another area is just in terms of preventing harm from occurring. We know that lots of people are still subject to scams and fraud, and that's a real problem area. So I'd be really interested in thinking about, okay, how can we make a transformative difference there? And that would be really exciting in terms of a standout application for me, something that really moves the dial on inclusion and prevention of harm. So I just want to encourage you. I know that lots of fintechs are actually facing their own struggles as a result of COVID. I just encourage you, make the most of the opportunity presented through this appathon and give it a go. We love to see as many market-ready products at the end of this process as possible. So please register to take part in the world's first Open Finance Appathon. Thanks very much.